What's up, divers? Welcome back. I am your host, Cosmic,
And I'm your co-host, Twist.
and today we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I sure would. Hi, everybody. It's Telly.
We have Telly with us, and today we are going to be doing Get Help Part 2. Take it from me. Welcome back, guys. This is another Get Help podcast. Um, so I have a couple story. Well, I'm just to be transparent with everyone. I have recently just gotten back from the hospital. Um, I was having a manic episode myself. I suffer from schizoaffective bipolar type disorder. And it's bipolar with a little flair when I go into a manic episode, and it was scary, guys. But I made it through. I got my medications that help me this time, and they don't make me feel bogged down or dragged down. And we're just going to talk a little bit more about the whole mental health journey, and for anyone who has bipolar disorder in general, or anyone who has the same disorder I have, this is more tailored for you and for us. But yeah, and we have Telly here, of course, because we want to get Telly has some experience when it comes to therapy and going to therapy, for those of you who want it or need another perspective. And of course, we have Twist here, who is going to give her perspective of what it's like to be a parent of someone with schizoaffective bipolar disorder, and some signs that she can point out for people to look for, or parents to look for, particularly. So we'll start with you, Telly. Telly, what is your experience when it comes to therapy, and how were you first introduced to it? What was your idea of therapy before you ever went to therapy?
Okay, so I when I was 16 years old, we had a death in the family. It was my paternal grandfather, who I was
Yes.
very close to. And when he passed away, it was sudden. He wasn't sick or anything. He just died. And it was a shock. And I did not take it well.
Right.
So after I guess a period of time, my mother talked to my counselor at my high school, and
Okay. Had
she
you been
decided.
communicating with your counselor?
Yeah. Well, because I was a part of it was a special group with the kids in the high school, and she was the overseer of that.
Okay.
And
Was
she
it a
noticed.
was it a grief group?
No, it was like a social, kind of like ASB, the student government, but that it wasn't
Oh,
government, it was
right.
something else.
Right.
And she noticed a change in me, and she asked, like, what's going on? And I told her that my grandfather had died.
Right.
And she contacted my mom. But this is what I found out later on. She
Okay.
contacted my mother, and my mom got help for it. And I think that advisor was the one that helped my mom get me the help I needed.
Right. But you
And
have no idea how
largely,
that conversation went.
well, this is what's funny. We didn't even have a conversation about it. My mom was like, "Yeah, you know what? We got to go somewhere." And before I knew anything, we were on our way to the doctor's office, and the doctor sits me and my mom down, and she's like, "Okay, so I understand, blah blah blah." That was my introduction to it.
Okay. And how did you
And
feel about it?
I really liked my mom's approach
No, how did you
because
feel about therapy prior to, or prior to realizing you're getting ready to go into therapy? What were your opinions and ideas of therapy? Did you have any at all?
I didn't have any at all.
Okay, so no.
16 years old, I was not wise to the world. I had no idea.
Okay. And how did that first session go for you? Was it natural? Was it how was it?
Very natural, very natural. My therapist was very kind.
Okay.
I think she was a child psychologist. And it was, crying. And then after seeing her for a while, she diagnosed me as being depressive.
How many sessions did it take for her to diagnose you?
You know what? Honestly, I don't remember. And talked to my mom about it, and then they sat me down together, and she said, "Well, this is what's happening." And excuse me. And I didn't feel ambushed. I just felt like, oh, okay. I'm pretty lackadaisical. So if somebody says to me, "Oh, hey," so that was my approach to it. I just kind of went on with it willingly, and after a period of time, I wasn't on medication. It was just the cognitive behavioral therapy, where you sit and you talk.
Right.
So that's all it was. We sat and talked, and I remember going for a while. But I don't know exactly how long, because it's been a while ago.
Yeah.
But I did go for a while.
Well, that's an interesting thing, Telly, because I know that in certain communities, mental health is overlooked. So I definitely have to give kudos to your mom for taking the advice of the counselor and actually seeking some help and assistance. Now, being that you were diagnosed as such, have you visited that again since you've been an adult?
Oh, yeah. I've had little episodes here and there. Like if I'm very stressed out, I have a little meltdown where I'm like, and then when I recognize the sign, I always know to, okay, you know what, find somebody, talk to somebody.
So when you say recognize the signs, what do you mean? What are those signs?
Yeah, what are some signs of depressive disorder for anyone who is suffering from it and doesn't know that they're suffering from it? Can you give any tendencies that later, after going to therapy, you realize, okay, these are signs that I am experiencing this, or I've been triggered?
Withdrawal. I mean, I'm not like a warrant. I tend to. I'm not a person that's wanting to be part of the crowd anyway.
Right.
But for me, withdrawal sign. If I want to just stay in my bedroom and be left alone, that's a sign something's going on. And I don't want to go out.
Right.
When I was health active, I suddenly felt like, oh, I can't go out now. Then that was a sign. And then for me, I can't function in terms of like my emotions. I'm crying all day, every day.
Right.
Every time you see me, I'm in just a bubble of.
Where's your mental space at this time? Like, what are the thoughts?
Like I never got to the point where I felt like I hurt myself. I've never been there.
Right.
I just can't function.
And when you say can't function, because one example of depressive disorder, along with substance abuse, is Rue from the show Euphoria. It's a popular show. Rue's dad dies, and she goes completely off the rails, and she suffers from depressive disorder that she self-medicates with many different drugs or anything she gets her hands on. And there's a scene in there where she's so upset that she can't even get up and go to the bathroom, or doesn't want to. Would you say that that's part of the withdrawal? That's part of the shut-in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. If you don't feel like, if you're a person that normally engages with others very comfortably, a telltale sign you don't want to be around anything.
In Twist, no, you're okay. In Twist, what about you? Have you ever gone to therapy and have been diagnosed with depressive disorder, anxiety, anything in our family history?
Yes, as you guys know, for those of you who listen to our podcast, in the first Get Help episode, I talk about several years of experience in therapy. However, I was diagnosed with moderate depressive disorder when my son passed away in 2016. I didn't even realize that was the state I was in until my mom said, I think you need to go and see about what's happening with you. So when I did go and see what was happening, that's what I was diagnosed with. I was prescribed medication that I did take for 1 year. And after I took that medication for about 2 or 3 weeks, it's like the clouds opened up and the harp started playing. And I felt so much better and didn't even realize that I had an issue.
Right.
So I did take that medication for 1 year, and coupled with personal and individual therapy,
Right.
I think it made all the difference. I'm not sure where I would be at this present moment if I hadn't taken that step.
And what did the symptoms look like for you? What did you realize that you were doing, or what was pointed out that you were doing that you didn't realize was so outside of yourself?
I was angry, and every time someone would say something remotely aggressive or anything that was not in line with how I was feeling or thinking,
right,
I would react and respond in a negative manner,
right,
sometimes aggressively. But I just thought, I'm in a bad mood today.
Right.
Please leave me alone. But it was really more than that.
And for time purposes, how long from the passing to you going to Granny saying that you need help was it 3 months, 6 months?
It was about 7 to 8 months.
7 to 8 months after.
7 to 8 months, because things were going downhill so fast.
Right.
And I didn't have a handle on it.
Right.
Didn't know how to pull it back and to reel it in.
Right.
But I was in such a headspace where I was ready to go full speed ahead, whatever that meant.
Right.
And which of course is not the best way of thinking about anything.
Right.
So and when my mom mentioned that, I was angry. I was like, "What are you trying to say? I'm crazy?"
Right.
Because again, I was very ignorant to mental health.
Right.
So I did not really recognize that I was having a problem.
Right.
And again, that meant that I was, not able to manage my own life. So I had that stigma too. But at the same time, I'm so glad that I went and did what I needed to do, because again, I don't know where I would have been otherwise.
And I'd like to reinforce the saying of, it's not about going to fix you. It's about to be getting you better.
Become a better you.
Because prior to that, you didn't have depressive disorder in any form, not moderate, slightly severe. You didn't have any of that. So to now be in a position where you do need that, and you do need to go see someone, you do need help. That's just, I say that to say, you might not have needed therapy 5 years ago, but maybe after some things in life have happened, maybe you need to go talk to somebody. Maybe you need medication, guys. And I was not big on medication. I hate taking medication. I hated it. I will say I hated it. When I was first diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I was on a bender. Guys, I was on a lot of psychedelics, and I had a really bad trip, and it resulted in me jumping out of a moving car.
My car, no less.
Yes, it was Twist's car, and I hit the ground, I rolled, I jumped up, and I just started running down the street. What happened is that it sent me into psychosis, and that's the first step. Is you go into psychosis, and that's basically where you haven't been sleeping for days. And I had stayed up, and I had been up crying, guys. I was bawling my eyes out for 3 days straight, at least. And it feels like everybody is against you. It feels like you're public enemy number one, and you have to survive like this gauntlet. Is kind of what it feels like. And it doesn't matter who the people are. Sometimes, it's almost like you don't even see them as themselves. You see them as other people that you have had conflict with, or have some form of issue with, or, had anything. It could be anything. And it's a very scary thing when you're a schizoaffective bipolar type who has gone into psychosis and is manic. Some signs that I am having an issue is that I start forgetting or falling down on the things that I'm usually good about keeping up every day. So my routine starts to break down. I would say my first sign, knowing that I'm not doing well, is that I'm not showering every day. And I'm really big on taking a shower every day, at least one shower a day. So when I skip a shower and I don't get up the next morning, my first thing is, and okay, let me go get in the shower. I know then that I'm having an issue. But guys, sometimes you don't even realize it. Sometimes you just realize, oh, I'm tired today. Oh, I don't feel great today. Not only was I diagnosed as bipolar or schizoaffective bipolar, I was also diagnosed with anxiety and depression, which I have had anxiety my whole life. And in part of that, when I told you guys in the beginning of or in the first Get Help podcast, it was to be honest. And one thing that I had to do this past time last week was, I had to go all the way back and I had to tell the doctor, I remember when my mom would be at work or she would be somewhere and she wouldn't be home or she left and I didn't know where she was going. And I'd feel like the worst thing was going to happen, or I felt like, oh my God, there was a car accident. Why isn't she answering her phone? Da 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 da. Whatever it is, and it would send me. It would make my heart race, and I would feel that same feeling in my chest. And I have to calm myself down and say, "Well, all you can do is just wait." And then she comes to the door. I'm like, "Yeah, right." So, I've had anxiety my whole life, and in many other instances, I had to really think back and connect the feeling I was experiencing in that moment to any time that I could have possibly been feeling it before. And one thing about me, guys, I ended up back in this situation because when I was first diagnosed as bipolar, I didn't really believe it. Because I didn't believe I needed medication for one. I took the medication that they gave me hoping that it would help, but it didn't. It made my energy levels drop extremely. All I wanted to do was lay in bed. It makes, your libido is completely gone. It's just not, it doesn't make you feel good. You can't do the stuff that you want to do. And sometimes, and it not only do the stuff you want to do, it makes it hard to do the stuff that you need to do. And, I was really against medication, and I felt that, I've lived all this time without medication, and apparently I've had this my whole life. So, I can do this. So I can thug it out without meds. And I did it for 2 years. And I was managing myself well. I did have manic episodes, but they weren't hospital worthy. And yeah, guys. And it also, there was this need to divulge my deepest and darkest secrets and everything to whoever will listen, because it's almost like there was this like guilt. The best way I can describe a manic episode for me, it's kind of like if anyone's seen Vampire Diaries. The vampires have the thing where they turn off their humanity and they do the worst of things and treat people the worst of ways, and then when they're humanity, they turn their switch back on. It's like they're hit with all of the guilt and shame, and they feel a need to make amends. It's almost like that's kind of what it feels like. That's if I had to explain it in a way, that's a part of it. And sometimes you're angry. Sometimes, you want to fight, or you feel like you got to defend yourself for no reason. And so there's that too. So, and it's scary because you can end up in trouble that way. I could have been in a lot of trouble, if I was on the wrong side of the coin when it comes to the manic episode. And, that's one thing that I learned this time is, guys, believe it the first time. And they told me that if I don't do what I need to do, I'll be back in this facility or another one the first time. And I was sitting in the facility this time around thinking, damn, they told me they told me this would happen. But I didn't believe it, guys. I didn't want to believe it either. And I wanted to feel like I could do it on my own and control myself. I felt some type of way about that. And yeah, so but back in better and back better and medicated. So that's definitely something. Another thing is I have substance abuse issue when I am in a manic episode. So that is another thing. If you're drinking heavy, smoking heavy, even if it's just vaping, guys, if it's in excess, it's definitely something you need to look into.
Well, I would like to kind of chime in here, being a parent of someone that has been diagnosed with such a disorder. When he was initially diagnosed, you guys, it was heartbreaking. And me, I mean, I'm very ignorant to mental health and what to look for, how it works. So all of this was very new for me then. And after educating myself a little bit on it, I had more insight as to what it was and to what as to what to look for. However, he did make it clear to me that he wasn't taking his meds because he didn't like the way it made him feel. He said it made him feel like a zombie. And I understood, because nobody wants to feel like that every day. And because he hadn't been having episodes, but what I did not know is he was having many ones and didn't share them with me.
Right.
So I was thinking that the first episode was drug induced because he was having a good time out there with his friends.
As did I.
So I thought that's what he was doing, and that's what brought on that particular episode. However, this time was a little different. And those things that he was saying he exhibited, I saw those things, but I did not know to relate them to he was having a breakdown.
Right.
So as a parent, all I can say is to educate yourself as much as possible, even if you have any indication that your child may be suffering with some sort of a disorder. Of course, the first course of action would be to go and get that diagnosed. And if there's any sort of diagnosis, then to educate yourself on it, because there's nothing like feeling helpless and not knowing what to do, not knowing if you should send them to the hospital. I didn't want to send my son to the hospital, not only the first time, but also the second time.
Right.
It's something I just did not want to do. I thought, ignorantly, that I could love him through it. And unfortunately, it's just not possible.
Right.
It takes medication, and it also takes therapy.
Right.
I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't have the necessary tools to do so, but I almost felt like I was betraying him by sending him to the hospital. So just so you guys know, you parents out there or loved ones, just send them to where they need to get help.
Yes.
So they can get to where they need to be mentally healthy.
And for those who suffer from my disorder, Telly, I do have some questions for you. I am going to get to. We did not forget about you. And I do have some. Do you have anything actually that you would like to comment on anything that I've said or anything that Twist has said as up to now?
Twist definitely touched on something that's really important as a parent.
Right.
And just with certain cultures in general.
Right.
Health is seen as a weakness in some cultures.
Right.
I am so grateful that my mother was progressive.
Right.
And she didn't really care about what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
She just wanted to help.
Right.
So I think that that's very important for parents to do, just as Twist said. It's not a shortcoming. You're not a failure as a parent. Nothing like that. Your child just needs a little extra attention.
Right. And one thing I would like to say to anyone who has my disorder, or bipolar disorder in general, because my disorder is a branch of bipolar disorder. And when you are in the hospital and going through these things, I swore that, they're trying to get me to go to sleep. They're going to ship me off to another country. I'm going to be in I'm going to be in like the sex trafficking ring. I was thinking all types of stuff, guys. I was thinking that, they were holding my mom hostage and that they were trying to do something. I was fighting folks in the thing and charging after folks and hitting folks in the thing. It was a mess, guys. And what I would say to anybody with my disorder is that, guys, first and foremost, breathe. That's another thing. When I'm going through a manic episode, I have very shallow breathing. And I have to remind myself to breathe and try to calm down. One thing that it feels like that I was explaining to Twist while I was going through this is that it feels like my fight or flight system is on and I can't shut it off. And it increasingly gets worse, as if there's something that I have to do. There's something, I have to do something. And that's when it's on the anxiety side of the coin. Sometimes it's on the depressive side of the coin. And like I said, what that looks like, I can be crying for days. And I'm crying about something that happened, 15, sometimes 20 years ago. So it's like, guys, it's a whole roller coaster. And don't let the roller coaster throw you off the ride. That's my biggest piece of advice.
And I do have to jump in here, because when Cosmic is telling you guys about how he'll be crying about something that happened 15 years ago,
I'm serious
as a parent, and I'm like angry, because I'm like, what is wrong with you? 15 years ago, it doesn't matter. This is what matters. Today matters. But again, you guys, that's the ignorance talking. I am not understanding the state in which he's in at that time.
Right.
So that's another reason why I cannot be of help, because I cannot step outside of the mom box. I cannot step outside of the fix it box. Not to mention, I am not educated in how to help someone through such an instance. But I'm a person. I'm a person too.
Right.
And because I'm a person too, I have to recognize that I'm not able and I'm not capable. Therefore, I have to seek out help for my son. But as a parent, you feel like a failure. You feel like, there's something that you did wrong. You feel like there's something that you're doing wrong. I mean, you name it, that's what you're feeling. But ultimately, I'm glad that I was able to step outside of the box and get him the help that he needed. But for you parents out there, I just want to tell you, you're not a failure. You've done nothing wrong. Just know that there's help out there which you need to seek if you're having a child that has an issue such as Cosmic's.
And guys, forgive the people in your life for how they respond to your manic episode. By going through it, this shit is crazy. And, give people grace. And, and like Twist said, they're people too. Your support system are people too. And it's as much as a stressful situation for them as it is for you. And it might not be in the same way, but it's still a stressful situation. So make sure you give people grace. And another tidbit of advice is don't be embarrassed. Although your manic episode may be embarrassing, don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed, because you are suffering and going through something that is out of your control, especially once you get to the manic state. And do whatever it is you need to get help. Talk to whoever it is you need to do to get help. Some of you might say, I don't know how to get help. What if I'm experiencing a manic episode and I don't have a way to help myself. One thing that I would say is you need to, like we said, we went to the hospital. I told Twist, I said, you know what? I think that I need to go to the hospital this time because I need to make sure that I'm okay. I wasn't sleeping, guys. I couldn't sleep. The anxiety was so bad that one night, I laid in my bed all night long with my eyes closed. And it got to a point where I just was staring out the window and I literally watched the sun come up. Because just in my mind, I can't even tell you what all was going through my mind because it was just so intense. It was a lot going on. Don't be embarrassed, guys. What you can do is we went to the hospital, emergency room actually, and you tell them what you're experiencing. Let them know that you haven't been slept in so many days. Tell them what you're feeling, however that is, and be open and honest. And usually what happens is that you get put under an evaluation, and the next step after that is they are going to find a mental health facility for you to go to where you can get the help you need. And guys, don't believe the noise. Don't believe what you're hearing, what you're seeing as far as the negative. Don't believe your thoughts, the negative. You're not your thoughts when you are manic. And that's what you need to remember the most. And yeah, guys, that's the advice I have to give for anyone who has bipolar disorder or schizoaffective bipolar disorder. I wanted to do a part 2 for you guys so that I can be more transparent with what I'm going through. And guys, talk about what you go through and talk about it because it's therapeutic for you and you never know who you could be helping.
And Telly, what are your thoughts? Because you have had this experience while you were growing up as well. How has that translated into your adulthood?
With depressive disorder.
Oh yeah. I had to basically learn how to navigate life. So what I mean by that is breakups with boyfriends.
That's a trigger for you.
Well, it's just an example.
Okay.
Technically, emotional is a trigger for me.
Okay.
Especially anything dealing with loss.
Right.
So a breakup is about loss, right?
Right.
So instead of, the normal person who goes through a breakup, they eat like their ice cream and whatever, and they drink their wine and cry to their girlfriend.
Right.
For me, depending on the intensity of the relationship,
right,
I would just check out a lot and hide away.
Mm-hmm.
And if it come back,
Mm-hmm.
But when my situation got worse as I got older,
Mm-hmm.
and I recognized a lot of.
And why do you believe it did? Do you know why it got worse, or can you pinpoint, symptoms that got worse and explain in detail, like how did that happen for you?
So for me, not only is loss a trigger, just generalized stress is a trigger.
Okay.
How I deal and cope with stress is I pretend like it's not happening, so I can go on and get through what I need to get through. And then once the situation is over, then I fall apart. So a lot of people might handle their stress a lot more healthy.
Right.
They'll just say, it's a stressful situation. Me, I'm pretending like it's not gonna it's not even happening.
Right.
There's nothing wrong. And then when everything is over, sort of like the world is falling on me.
Right.
And then that's when I'm like crying, like normal times when people cry, maybe they're stressed out, somebody yelled at them or whatever. Me, it's like it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the loss happens, then it just kind of all comes down.
And I think that I can even relate to that with, because I was diagnosed with depression. I think that I can relate to that even in my manic state. And when I am on the depressive side of the coin, I'm not a crier, guys. I don't pretend that things don't happen. I accept that things happen and I go through the mental and the logical process immediately. However, I don't do the emotional part. I have a very hard shell. So even if something hurts me, I don't ever really get to experience the emotional side of it until I'm having something like a depressive disorder or a manic episode, a depressive manic episode. And that leads to me crying nonstop for days. And guys, when I say nonstop, I might not cry 3 hours out of the day for 3 days, so that's 9 hours out of 72, and the rest are spent, the other 63 hours are spent in tears, and I mean bawling. So I can understand what Telly is saying when she says that she goes through these episodes where, all of a sudden the world falls on her shoulders. um I can relate to that for sure. Are you in therapy now? And do you take any medications now to help with your depressive disorder?
So I am not in therapy right now. I was on a few months ago. I had therapy because I lost my parents. So I went through grief counseling.
Right.
And that was a good thing to experience because I staved off depressive, the serious depressive,
negative traits, things that and habits. Right.
Definitely one that can recognize my signs and get right on it. But in terms of medication, no, I was temporarily medicated, like when pursuit, not with the grief. I wasn't medicated then, but previously.
Okay.
I had an episode where it was just, I was in a stressful job, nothing was going right, and I was depressed. And so I got put on a depressive medication then, and I was only on it for about 6 months.
Right.
And it made all the difference.
Right. One thing that triggers me as well as loss, particularly nothing triggers me more than losing people, even whether they are alive or not alive, kind of similar to what Telly was saying. Losing jobs sends me into some form of it's some form of a trigger when it comes to my disorder. That's actually what happened this last time. Particularly, I felt like I was being taken advantage of, for one, and that my hard work wasn't being appreciated. And guys, a lot of you, especially the Gen Xers, is like, yeah, that's life, that's work, that's what it's all about. I'm an emotional person. For anybody who's into astrology, I'm a Cancer, so I can't help but be in my feelings. I can't help it. I swallow my feelings all the time. I bite my tongue a lot. And I'm about fairness. If it's fair, if I was in the wrong, I take that, I own that, and I do what I need to do to better myself and the situation. However, when I'm not in the wrong, you got hell on wheels coming your way, because I'm about fairness. And if it's not fair, if it's not right, I can't help but to call a spade, and that's also a part of my disorder. The mood swings. I had every intention that day of work being a good day. I had a bad conversation with one of my managers that sent me into an emotional thing. But on the surface, I was trying to keep things cool and collected, trying to be an adult. And by the end of the night, the bomb that mine went off, and it didn't go off like it could have, but it still went off, and it sent me into a complete spiral. And arguably, guys, you can start spiraling before you even realize it. You could have had the best week of the year last week, and little did you know, you started spiraling 2 weeks before that. So, guys, what I would say is be self-aware. Notice when you are not doing things that bring you happiness or bring you joy. Realize when you are more agitated than usual, when you're more withdrawn than usual, and these are typically signs that you're having an issue. And do everything you need to do. Be patient with yourself and take care of yourself and nurture yourself. And it all starts with you. That's what I would say. It all starts with you, and you are going to how determined you are to I don't want to say fix the manic episode, get through the manic. I'll say get through the manic episode, the better off you'll be. Don't feed into the episode if you can help it, and if not, there are hotlines that you can call. I don't have them up right now, but I will put them in the description box for this episode. If for anyone who needs them, get help, and don't let the roller coaster throw you off the ride. Hang in there, even if it's bumpy, or even if you guys get stuck upside down. You won't be there forever, So get help, and that is all I have for this episode for myself. Twist, do you have any questions for Telly, or do you have anything else that you would like to say?
I just have a statement from a parent's perspective. I think that as parents, you should, if there is an issue going on with your child, whether it be a adolescent child or an adult child, no matter what, it's still your child. And it's like, don't be embarrassed about it. Talk to people, seek help, because whether you guys know it or not, having friends and family that you can reach out to is such a blessing, and it helps you through this very, very difficult situation. And I know a lot of people don't want to admit that their kid has an issue, especially an issue such as this, but it's just like anything else. It's just like any other illness. So don't be embarrassed. Just reach out and get the support that you need, because if you're not strong, you can't help and guide your kid. So keep yourself as healthy and as strong as possible. That's all I have to say about that.
All right, guys. Thank you for Telly. Do you have anything that you would like to say for the viewers? Anything that you would like to mention, or to help anyone else who might suffer from depressive disorder? Did you learn anything new today for yourself that maybe, hey, maybe I should take more into account?
So I think it's very important for people to know themselves. You know what I mean? Don't let someone tell you who you are. Know what your triggers are, and know that you can overcome.
Right.
And there is no stigma, like Twist was saying. You have to, make sure your star player is okay. You know what I mean?
That's real.
You are all you have. Nobody else can do anything for you but yourself.
Right.
So if you see something's a little off, if you have loved ones that you trust, talk to them and ask them, okay, what do you see?
Right.
In my case, it's my friends, people I've been friends with for like 30 years. They're the ones that can ask.
Right.
So talk to people.
Right.
And know yourself.
Right. I agree. And I think that was an excellent statement, guys. You got to take, like Cat Williams said, you got to take care of the star player first. People can be there to support you, but it's not their job to help you. You have to go and get the help that you need, and you need to make the decision that, hey, I need help and I can't do it by myself. And that's hard, guys. It was so hard. I tried so hard to bring myself out of the episode by myself, and I just couldn't do it. And I broke down. I told Twist, I said, I got to go to the hospital. I have to go to the hospital because I need to be sure that I'm going to be okay. Because I did not feel okay, and I didn't feel okay for days, and I was in the hospital. I was in the facility for help, and I was fighting. I was fighting the medication. I didn't want to take my meds. Like I said, I was experiencing mania. And, for anybody who suffers from that, I understand you're not alone, and, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You need to get medicated though. Don't think that don't be out here, unhinged. And, if your check engine light comes on, go get that worked on. Go get that taken care of. You don't want to be sitting in a situation wishing you were home and you can't go home because you've made a mistake, or you've taken your life because, you for whatever reason, you feel like, that was what was necessary. Get help first. Try first. And that's my most important thing. Just try. Hell, like Nike said, just do it. Don't forget trying. Just do it. Just do it. It's the best thing that I could have done, was saying I needed to go to the hospital, get my meds readjusted. I didn't say that, but I ended up getting my medicine readjusted, guys. Right now, it's great. And I feel like if I'm only feeling good now, I'll only feel better later. So,
And before we wrap up, you guys, I just have a little side note. As far as legality purposes, when Cosmic was going through this situation, I had a power of attorney, both as a health advocate and as well as everything else that falls under the power of attorney umbrella. And I'm so glad, you guys, that I had that. A very dear friend of mine suggested that I get that done. At the time, I really did not understand the importance of it, but I thought, why not? It won't hurt. And being that Cosmic was in this situation, I was able to use that power of attorney to speak with the medical professionals. They would not have spoken to me otherwise. Now, of course, this works for your adult children. So I would implore anyone who has adult children that, of course, are unmarried and just single out there in the world to get that power of attorney for both the health and everything else that falls under that, because I think it saved my sanity as a parent, and it made me a part of the wellness team. So I would suggest that anybody do that. So that's all I wanted to say, because that was so important to me, and it gave me so much comfort in a situation where comfort was limited.
And I think that that's a great bit of information. Like I said, guys, here at the In the Deep End podcast, we are big fans of mental health. I am, personally. I'll tell anyone who will listen to me to try it, but I know people have their own life experiences, and they are closed off and shut off to stuff. But I hope that you listen to the podcast anyways, and if you're not ready now, hell, maybe it'll help you 10 years down the line, 5 years, whatever. But yeah, guys, that was the purpose of this podcast, was to help out. I want to be transparent as possible. And it was a great conversation. Thank you guys for participating in this with me. I do appreciate everyone's input. And Telly, do you have anything else for the divers that you would like to say?
No, other than just love yourself.
Love yourself. If nothing else, love yourself. Ooh, that was good. I should put that on a shirt. Love yourself. If nothing else.
Going.
Yeah, get the merch going. I'm gonna cut that out.
I expect my royalty payment.
Right.
All right. Guys, if you guys want to get into contact with us, share your stories. Maybe you think you have something, you're afraid to get it checked out. Guys, please email us. We can be found at generationalcrossroads722 at gmail.com. Again, that's generationalcrossroads722 at gmail.com. And also, you can find us at Instagram at In the Deep End Deep End 7. Again, that's Instagram at In the Deep End 7. And for TikTok, you can find us at Cosmic_Twist722. All right, guys, that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you, Telly, for being a part of this podcast and sharing your experience and one of your diagnoses. And I think that this was a good one, guys. You guys, don't forget, always dive deep, go deeper than the surface. And that is all I have for you guys today. Gone.